In the 1770s, European scholars viewed human history as a linear process radiating out from the Mediterranean. In this view, knowledge and civilization moved in a single direction to illuminate the rest of the globe. They relied on two primary assumptions. The ancient Egyptians were the undisputed masters of science, and the Hebrews were the first to possess monotheism. This worldview dismissed the rest of the world, especially the East, as an intellectual wasteland of primitive, pagan cultures. Challenging this structure was more than an error in history. It was a challenge to the core of Enlightenment historical theory. John Zephaniah Holwell, a surgeon and official who had lived in India, returned to London to publish a text intended to overturn this consensus. He argued that the true location of the first human religion was not in the Middle East, but in the ancient, unmixed nation of India. Holwell rejected the venerated wisdom of Egypt and Greece, labeling their collective philosophical achievements as folly. Holwell set out to prove that the ancient Hindus held the original truths of the universe, directly contradicting centuries of European study. Holwell proposed that despite differing climates and rituals, all humans share a set of primitive truths delivered by God at the beginning of time. He identified 14 specific points to illustrate this shared theological foundation. His list included the existence of one eternal creator, a rebellion of angelic spirits, and the immortality of the soul. At the center of his argument was the doctrine of metempsychosis, the idea that humans are actually fallen angels undergoing a cycle of transmigration for purification. Holwell used these 14 points as a metric to measure the purity and age of every ancient culture. Applying this metric to Egypt led Holwell to a harsh conclusion regarding their famous intellectual legacy. He argued that Egyptian religious and philosophical systems were not original developments. Instead, he claimed that travelers from Egypt stole these concepts from the Gentoo Brahmins of India and presented them as their own work. He reframed the very start of Western philosophy as an act of international plagiarism. The theft itself was only the first part of Holwell's critique. He was more concerned with how the Egyptians used that information once they brought it home. He noted that the Egyptian magi kept their truths within secret mysteries, restricting them exclusively to a small circle of kings and elites. To manage the public, Holwell argued these leaders invented manufactured idols like the hawk-headed Osiris, using them to keep the population confused and submissive. In contrast, he presented ancient India as a culture that maintained its sacred truths without such corruption. In his view, the Gentoos taught the unity of God and the immortality of the soul as public tenets, known and received by all citizens. This distinction made the Egyptian system a tool for political control, while the Indian model functioned as a system of public enlightenment. Modern research rejects Holwell's claims. His historical timeline contains significant errors. However, his approach of connecting different cultures through shared archetypes anticipated the field of comparative religion by a century. He treated Eastern scriptures as intellectual documents that explored universal human themes, moving away from the common view of them as mere curiosities. His work challenged the European monopoly on religious history and expanded the scope of theological study. Holwell's 1771 text contains a political message alongside its theological argument. He focused on the danger inherent in a ruling class hoarding knowledge. In his critique, a society rots when elites use secret truths to consolidate power while feeding the public manufactured distractions to keep them in awe. He argued that a system requiring the deception of the masses is a form of tyranny, not wisdom. Holwell's final point is that enlightenment loses its value when it is locked away. To be effective, he believed, it must be accessible to everyone.